Okay, so when I logged into Payroll module, it is very much the same as what we just saw within self-service. I've got a number of items down the left-hand side of different menu options that I can select from, but instantly I'm presented with a dashboard. Now we can configure a variety of dashboards for you and your staff, and we can create the dashboards that are, or the reports and content that are important to those users. For example, um, executives or the financial team will be interested in the first couple of reports on the screen. So the salary cost by department or the average salary cost by department. And you'll see as we look between the two charts, the department with the higher costs actually changes based on the number of employees that are part of each department. I can hover above the chart to see the information. And from the chart, I can also I can click down and drill down on the information to get a more detailed view. Any report that I drill down on, I can also export out to Excel. In this case, I've just selected the one department, but we could actually be looking at all records as well. So a variety of reports that we've developed and will be provided with the solution. We've got salary cost by department and an average salary cost. We've got a breakdown of salary cost by department and gender. We've got the annual leave liability, so we can see which departments are actually providing us with the biggest exposure if suddenly a group of people decide to take time off. We've got a gender split report, so more from an HR perspective, and then we've got a leave exposure as well. So we can see by employee, the top 10 employees that are actually have the most leave owing to them. So we can start potentially talking to those employees to push them through taking leave, especially in this current time of COVID. So we can develop these reports for you, but as I mentioned, we'll be providing you with a series of reports as part of the implementation, looking at to build your dashboards. Now I'm going to have a look at the payroll processing phases. So we've developed a step-through approach for processing your pay. Not each of these steps may not apply to your organization. For example, import timesheets. If you've got a workforce management system, or you may have a manual process of currently entering timesheets into payroll, and I'm seeing a lot of customers at the present time who have very manual processes of getting timesheets into the system. We've managed to reduce the time for some organizations from hours down to literally minutes by using the import timesheet function. As I mentioned, it's not necessarily for all organizations, but where you've got a lot of employees that are potentially waged and you want to track their time, or you're pulling it from a clocking system or a workforce management system, we can get that information into the payroll very quickly, reducing the overall time that it will take to complete the payroll processing. Public holiday processing is a way that we can keep track of the various public holidays that employees need to be paid for. What that allows us to do is look at a work calendar that's assigned to each employee, and the work calendar has a number of exceptions based on the public holidays that they're entitled to each year, and we can create a batch for loading into the payroll. Leave administration is where the payroll team get visibility and have the final decision over when leave is going to be paid to employees. So they see a list of approved a list of approved leave requests, and then they can select them and mark them as ready to be paid. Managed pays is the core piece of the payroll process. This is where we create our payroll batches. We have employees loaded automatically, and based on standard pay items against each employee, those get pre-loaded against the employee's pay. For salaried employees, this is very much like an auto pay process. From there, we can also import timesheets, import leave, and import public holiday information into the payroll. We also have the ability to make changes to the payroll. So if you've received a request from Ministry of Justice for a fine that's outstanding for an employee, you can key that in manually into the payroll if it's a one-off, or you can add it to an employee standard pay so that it reduces over time. Once the payroll has been completed, we then move on to the batch payments stage. That encompasses 3 steps. 1, it produces the bank file for uploading to your through your appropriate banking portal. Secondly, it generates the general ledger transactions that can be exported and loaded into your financial system. And thirdly, it produces the payslips. Now, payslips can either be printed, they can be emailed out to their employees, or we can simply send a notification to the employees that they've got a new payslip available, and then they can access that via the self-service portal. As Justin mentioned, there's a number of APIs and interfaces that we can develop. In the case of import timesheets, a workforce management could automatically push timesheet data directly into the payroll system, reducing the need for any processing by the payroll staff.